So
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to be
Okay.
here.
Yeah. How's the family too?
Very fine. We're doing good.
Good. Thank God. So everyone, thank you. Because we have Mr. Ben now, I guess we can just start. This is the third episode of 30 Minutes with Tosin, and we're continuing the mental health series. And today we'll be talking about vicarious trauma. And of course, we thought that we should bring in Mr. Ben. Mr. Ben is a clinical psychologist, and then of course, he's also a behavior analyst. But because he's also worked with people with special needs for so long, he's worked with many professionals in the health sector, plus the education sector, and then of course the special needs sector. We feel that would be in the best position just to talk about this particular topic of interest to many professions. As long as you're in the care business, this is something that you'll find very, very helpful. So once again, you're welcome, Mr. Ben.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here again, like I said earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So just before we go into the main topic of the day, I want to just mention a bit of the news, because when we started the 30 Minutes with Tosin in August, the students were still at home because of ASU strike. But then, of course, right now, the students are back home.
Definitely.
Like they're back to school because ASU have called off the strike. So I'm wondering that this would be something that is helpful for students' mental health, don't you think?
Definitely, it's going to be helpful for students' mental health. It's a privilege for them that if they will take this opportunity and to listen to the conversation.
Right. So thank you very much. So without wasting any more time, I will just leave. Over to you, Mr. Ben. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us all over the whole world, wherever you're watching from. So today we want to briefly talk about vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma. And so many of us have heard the word trauma over the years, right? But then somebody will ask, oh, what is vicarious trauma? Then, vicarious trauma, don't forget the word trauma. Trauma is, let me just break it down. Trauma means a distressful and a disturbing experience. That is trauma. What then is vicarious trauma? Vicarious trauma, in a layman knowledge, one, it's a secondary trauma. So that is first, it's a secondary trauma. So why do we say secondary? Primary trauma means that you are a victim of the event. So that is primary trauma. So what is secondary trauma? Secondary trauma, you are not a first-hand victim, but you were exposed to it indirectly. So, and then I define vicarious trauma as a shift in the world of a caregiver or a helper based on their exposure or their experience. So a shift in your view, a shift in your perspective, a shift in your belief, a shift in your interpretation based on your experience or your exposure.
Okay.
So that is vicarious trauma. So, but then, like I said earlier, note the word shift, note the word perspective, perception, beliefs, interpretations, and note the word helper. Vicarious trauma is not for everyone. Know the word helper. So, who are these helpers? So, any professional, anyone in the helping ministry, in quotes, in the helping profession, you are a helper. Who are the helpers? Therapists, counselors, policemen, okay? The Red Cross personnel, right? These are the set of professionals or the profession that are referred to as helping profession, in the sense that you render help to humanity, you help people. So how does vicarious trauma then How do you then become traumatic? Before I go there, why do I say, or why did I say earlier that it's a secondary trauma? You are working with people who are already traumatic, people who are first-hand victims of trauma,
Okay.
either parents or the children, okay? Or, for instance, people who are sexually abused, survivor of accident survivors, plane crashes, road accidents, parents who are struggling to help their children on the need. These are people going through one trauma or the other. They are going through primary trauma, right? So you are trying to help them to recover from the trauma. You are trying to help them to heal. You are trying to restore them. You are trying to help. But in the means or in the process of you trying to help, you become your perspective, your perception, and your view begin to change. So a typical example is that, for instance, a parent comes to you in the process of asking, oh, how was the pregnancy history, how was the marriage, and he or she tells you a lot of experiences and over the years in the course of pregnancy and even through via domestic violence, and you start wondering. So this is such a pretty woman, a handsome man, good, nice, and they're going through this ugly experience. So I mean, what kind of life is this? That becomes your thought. What kind of life is this? So does bad things then begin, happen to good people? Do good things, before you know, you start concluding, oh, it seems maybe over time or in the last couple of months, you've heard stories of good people who have had bad experiences. You just heard this woman's story now, and you are trying, and it's trying to validate what you've heard over, in the past, and you said, oh, definitely bad things happen to good people. Yes, and you are a good person as a therapist and as a counselor, and you start wondering, is it even worth it living and then trying to be your best, trying to do your best to be a good person, to be a good personnel, to be a good staff? I think it's not really worth it. This is so sad, this is so painful, this is so traumatic. Indirectly, you are going through vicarious trauma. Before you know, you start experiencing redundancy, towards the job. You start feeling sad. You start feeling sad about the job, and you start feeling sad. You get sad towards people, towards the job, and towards yourself. Indirectly, this is what we call vicarious trauma.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So, do you have another question for me, or I should continue?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please go on, because I feel that my question is something you already have.
All right. Okay. So we have signs, we have symptoms of people going through vicarious trauma. I've mentioned the list of professions and people who are susceptible and vulnerable to this kind of trauma.
Okay.
So what are the signs of vicarious trauma? We have what we call the emotional signs or symptoms. Anxiety, the person gets anxious about, oh, what comes next, what happens next, if this is the outcome of being good, if after all being good this thing still happens to people, so what happens to me next? So then there is mood swing. People like that could begin to experience mood swing. There could be burnout, right? So there could be burnout, and so then there's what we call the behavioral symptoms.
Okay.
The behavioral symptoms means that, oh, because this is now you have not experienced change in perception and change in view. So you want, and then you likely feel so sad. Then you want to look for a coping mechanisms just to be happy. And before you know, you start engaging in what we call maladaptive coping mechanisms, like smoking, cigarette, alcohol, and that is another problem. So these are signs. So when you see a staff or an employee who is engaging in maladaptive coping mechanisms, he or she may be going through any mental health challenge, mental health concern, which could be vicarious trauma or any other one, and the other one under behavioral is what we call isolation. So the
Okay.
person can then begin to isolate himself because he's sad. He's sad, he's not happy about life. That why should this thing be happening to these people? You are working with a child, for instance, you work with a very good looking, handsome boy, 2 3 years, who is on the spectrum, and you are wondering, oh my goodness, I mean, is God that wicked? Why did God allow this handsome boy to have autism? Why did God allow this handsome boy to have ADHD? Why did God allow this handsome, pretty guy to have, cerebral palsy? And these are things that can begin to happen, and you feel so sad. You don't know how to cope. Just feel it's not really worth it. And sometimes, if you are single, there is anxiety about, so what comes? what happens to me? So do you mean I'm going to also fall into this experience? These people that have, these children, they are human beings like me also. So you can see, in trying to cope, you are self-isolating and so on and so forth. Then there is other one, what we call cognitive symptoms. Cognitive symptoms could be in the sense that there is what we call cognitive distortion or thinking error. That is cognitive symptom. Thinking error in the sense that you just have some weird thought or like cognitive conclusion. Like I said earlier, you could have a conclusion that definitely bad things happen to good people. Yeah, definitely life is bad. Yeah, these are some of the cognitive distortion that could begin to happen. So you just, without evidence, without proofs, you just form those distortion out of those experiences. And that is what, and the other one is you could begin to have memory losses. You struggle to concentrate, you struggle to pay attention, and you struggle to forget thinking about that particular incident. Maybe somebody, for instance, someone comes for therapy. Maybe you are a counselor. Someone comes for therapy. For instance, victims of rape. Out of the whole, sometimes in sharing the experience with you, if you're not careful, you will start crying. You start shedding tears as a counselor. You start, right. So one way or the other, you are already you're already experiencing a kind of vicarious trauma. So because the person is sharing such a sympathetic experience with you, and before you know, you lose control. You are also sharing. You are tearing already. You are crying. You are shedding tears, and so on. And as you get home, you can no longer forget. You find it difficult to forget the experience. You could not forget how the guy was talking to you, or the client rather, and all that. So you find it difficult to forget thinking about it. You keep thinking. Having a flashback, how the person sat in front of you on the chair and relating the whole experiences, and then sexual abuse, client, and so on and so forth. These are signs of vicarious trauma. The other one is what we call the physiological symptom.
Okay.
Symptom. This is, you could begin to have nightmares. Nightmares about the experience. You could begin to have heartburn or symptoms of ulcer. These are vicarious stresses. It will be part of it. These are not all encompassing, but these are some of the symptoms that you can begin to experience. Then so among all these, I need to mention importantly, among all these experiences, and then helping professionals and helpers. So researchers, people have said over the years that helpers and professionals who work with children and then sexually abused clients or patients, right? These kind of helpers are more vulnerable to vicarious trauma. So if you work with children and you work with sexually abused clients. This kind of people or this kind of professionals are more vulnerable towards vicarious trauma. For instance, there are a lot of children that that have been sexually abused and so on and so forth. Children going through a lot of domestic violence. Children who are being neglected. There are a lot of. That's another thought for another day. What we call child abuse. So you work with them and children that roam around the street, and they bring them to your clinic, and children who have been sexually, abused, raped, and all that. Then even adults who have gone through sexual abuses and all that. So counselors, therapists, and individuals who work with this set of patient or clients are more vulnerable than others, like police, like Red Cross personnel, like Last Man, and like FRSC, and so on and so forth. Then,
sorry, Mr. Ben, did they find any particular reason for that? I'm just wondering.
Okay.
Why that work when?
Okay, from my researches, they didn't give us specific. I didn't come across specific reasons, but but I want to believe that in the society, number one, we know that children and women are the most vulnerable.
Right.
Children and women are the most vulnerable, and because they are the most vulnerable, we know that they go through a lot of stresses and funny events. All right, and because they seems to be like the weak set, among the races. So there's that compassion towards this set of people. There's that higher compassion towards them. So when things then happen to them, people express higher level of compassion and pain towards children and women, because we know that even generally women are then, let alone the ones who are sexually abused or sexually affected. So that could be some of the reasons, really. Good.
All right.
So, all right. Then, having said all this, how can we cope? How can we manage? How can we live because this is what we are called to do. I'm a psychologist, I'm a therapist. So this is what we are called to do, to help. So having said all this, so do we then leave our job? So we're not because we are going to experience vicarious trauma, so we're not going to be part of it. Of course, no. I remember there was an incident some years ago at Lagos Island. There was a building collapse. That building collapsed. That particular building had a school inside, if you can remember. Lagos Island. Yes, it had a school inside. Right. Yes. So we lost so many children. So the Psychological Association in Lagos State, we were there to give free therapy and pro bono to parents and to caregivers and to survivors of those incidents. When you get there, I'm telling you, if you have human feeling, you will cry, you will shed tears. Right. You are not seeing dead people. Mere looking at the site that oh, come on, so you mean children lives were wasted in this incident. Then you now go in to see parents crying, shedding tears, a 2-year-old child, and because it was a primary school, a 5-year-old child. If you have emotion, in fact, it will be very hard for you to control your emotions. You will cry, you will shed tears. This is one of the experiences of vicarious trauma, because even when you go back home, you will still think about it. What is happening to this world? That couldn't God allow those children to go back home, and then this thing could have happened in the night? You begin to question God and all that. One way or the other, you are experiencing, secondary trauma, and that is vicarious trauma. So what do we do? Since we are caught into the profession to help, into the helping ministry, how do we do this? How do we cope? Number one, the first thing is even either vicarious trauma or any other mental health challenges, number one thing you need to do is self-help.
Okay.
Self-help. A lot of people don't take good care of themselves. That is what we call self-help, right? There are different self-help tips and examples that you can engage in, and also you need to also find out which one works for you. There
Okay.
could be, I mean, your own self-help could be a weekend of relaxation. You choose a
Okay.
particular weekend to relax. I know many of us, we work from Monday to Friday, and at the close of work on Friday, we go back home with workload to go and continue, to go and finish. All through Saturday, the whole workload, that is what you are on. All through Sunday, that is what you are on. So there is no weekend for off. Oh, this weekend is my weekend for relaxation. Relaxation weekend. Everything I will be doing will be totally different from work. Yes. Sometimes you said you are relaxing, but on your phone you are still chatting your boss and you are still talking about work. Work is not only when you are tapping on your laptop, or you are with files. Your brain is still interpreting as you are still actively at work,
Still at
because you are
work.
still conversing with your staff, with your colleagues about work. So if you want to have a relaxation weekend, everything you are going to be doing will be opposite of what you do at work. You
Exactly.
totally forget work. You're not thinking about anything related to work. Opposite. You go to a park, you go to cinema, go to watch football and whatever. Then the other one is hobby. What is engage, practice your hobbies. Practice your hobbies. These are also another self-care tips. Exercise. If I ask many of us in the last couple of weeks or months, we have not intentionally engaged in physical exercise.
Tell
That
me
is one
about.
of the very important. Yes, very,
Okay.
very important. I know it's not easy. Now, if you look at Lagos State, you go to work in the morning, you are back at 9 p.m. So when it's time for exercise, to be sincere. But one way or the other, if you want to practice, you can just practice in just 20 minutes within your compound, 20 minutes within your bedroom. While you go to shower, you can do some exercises there. You can do some press up, you can do some lot of work there. Then you have your weekend to do a workout session. So we call something nature walk. Nature walk, so you're walking along the street, you're walking along the estate, you put on your earpiece, and everything you are concentrating on is what you are doing. So no distraction, nothing. All for you. So not the word self. You are taking care of yourself. That is
Hmm.
self-care. You are so some other time you can take a day in a month to go and lavish on yourself. That is self-care.
Hmm.
Yes, a day to lavish on yourself. Today, I want to
Love.
go into eatery to go and order food for myself. Today is, somebody told me let's say that she's celebrating birthday tomorrow, and she's going for the birthday with her children. I told her, then that is no longer your day again, because
Exactly.
she's been busy all the years taking care of children and children and children. She said, tomorrow go out alone.
Alone.
Nothing will happen to the children. They will be fine. They will be good.
Hmm.
Go and lavish on yourself. So you're taking care of yourself. It is Mr. X's day. You go for shopping. You go shop for yourself. You go eat for yourself. You go watch cinema for yourself. It's
Yeah.
your day. And this is self-care. What happens is, within those moments when you are doing all that, your mind is mindful of what you are doing, and you are distracted from the stress and the stressors of life, of work. That is the function of self-care. Sometimes if you don't pay attention to all this, you will burn out and overburn. And that's
Yeah.
what happens. Yes, the other one is balanced diet.
Okay.
Eat good food. Some people have been saving because they have told them to have a saving culture from January to December. They have
Hmm.
not taken one cover to eat good food. Good food for themselves. I say
They-
Nigeria are bad. Nigeria are bad.
They're over.
Abba, yeah, yes, you know, into long. Ah, you, you know what is over saving. So you claim you are saving, but you are not looking good. You are working, you are not looking healthy.
Hmm.
Eat good food. Good food is not in the sometimes is not in the amount that you spend. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's about quality, right? Even there are people who don't make it a culture to eat fruit and vegetables. These
Hmm.
are very important food for self-care. Everything you take is gala, Pepsi, tomorrow egg roll, Fanta, the other time Coca-Cola and chips, the other one that is not self-care. Sometimes you can say, oh, this week I want to do fresh food this week for self-care, or
Hmm.
this week every day in a week I want to take fruits. That is self-care. First of all, food, good balanced diet has great impact on your mental health because your brain needs to be refreshed. You are eating, you are feeding your brain. You are
Yeah.
feeding your brain for optimal functioning. And let's look at physical health. If you are not eating good food, you are killing your physical health gradually.
Right.
So you can see that balanced diet is all encompassing, both for your physical health and for your mental health. The other one is take time, spend good time with your loved ones.
Okay.
Spend good time with your loved ones. You can have time in a month that, oh, this time of the, one day in a month, I'm going to be with my loved ones. It could be your siblings, could be with your families. I can tell you that 30 minutes when you are with your siblings and your family members, you will laugh and forget life. You laugh and forget life challenges.
Absolutely.
It can be refreshing. It can be rejuvenating, and you know that. So these are important things to do. They may be far away.
Hmm.
Sometimes if they're far, you can't go physically. Organize a Zoom family meeting and let's just chat and discuss. Let's talk
Very.
about family. Let's chat. Let's laugh. Let's remember some memories. If let's tease daddy and mommy and all that. You laugh and laugh. These are small things that you can do to enjoy your life. The other one I said, I used to tell people is what we call mindfulness therapy. It's also part of self-care. You
Yeah.
can be mindful with anything. You can stay in front of your house, front of your balcony, and look at nature. Look at the beautiful trees around you. Look at the beautiful leaves around you. Look at the work of nature. Look at how beautiful the sky is, and begin to imagine. Look at the patterns of the sky. You can't overanalyze them. So, and then by the time you do, oh my goodness, you can never. But you never knew that. So this thing has been as beautiful and as pretty as this. Yes, it has been that way. But because you have never been mindful, the word mindfulness means that your mind is in the moment.
Hmm.
In vicarious trauma, your mind is focused on the experience, on the distressing event. So you practice mindfulness with observing nature, observing important and creative events around you, how unique, how pretty they are. And in
Good.
30-20 minutes, as you're doing this, your mind is in the present. Your mind will be distracted, right? But you redirect your mind back.
Thank
So within that 30 minutes, nothing in life matters again except
you.
the moment. Except the moment. And in mental health, reason why a lot of people that are depressed, they are anxious, it's also because their mind is not in the moment.
Hmm.
Anybody who's depressed, who's anxious, their mind is not in the moment. Their mind is in the past. About event that never worked. That's why they are depressed. Their mind is in the future. That's why they are anxious about what tomorrow holds and all that. Practice mindfulness, meditation for some moments every day. Bring your mind into the moment, into now, every day. You'll be amazed how sound your mind can be and how
Absolutely.
good you can go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So these are good things. The other one is if you then find out that this thing is getting hold of you, you've tried all these possible best and it seems not working.
Right.
Like I always tell people, there are times that the deliverer may need deliverance.
Hmm.
Because
Absolutely true.
sometimes the a therapist may need therapy sometimes.
True. Very.
Yeah, that's what it means. Sometimes a savior may need to be saved.
Yeah.
So if you've practiced all these self-care strategies and it seems not working, it's getting hold of you, what do you do then? You seek therapy, seek help.
Hmm.
It is okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yeah.
It's okay to seek help sometimes. It
Hmm.
is okay to feel vulnerable and to speak out.
Hmm.
Very, very important. And the therapy will help you with what we call trauma focused therapy.
Therapy. Yeah.
So, yeah, so that is a specific therapy that you will need. So the therapist will help you to overcome, to deal with those symptoms, and to give you a better perspective. Sometimes all you need is just to have a better perspective, a better view
Yes.
about this secondary trauma, and you'll be good. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I know you had a very short time to do all of this together, and that's that you're able to touch
Yeah.
on most of the things we wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So I don't know if people
Mm.
have questions. I mean, if you do have questions, it would be nice for you to put them in the comment section.
Comment section.
To
Okay.
Mr. Ben. So, Mr.
Yes.
Ben, I was wondering, for this particular victim, for this particular trauma, is it that it's a given? Okay, that as long as you are in the care business, this means that you are going to go through vicarious trauma? Or is it that every moment of our lives as therapists, as professionals, we are going through vicarious trauma?
All right, thank you. Yes, actually, it's not like it's 100% assurance that you will go through it. It's just like the way we have people who have depression, people who have anxiety, and there are people who don't have it. There are people in the same field who will
Mm,
not have vicarious trauma. There are people who will have vicarious trauma. Yes.
mm.
So it's not that it's a given, but
Yeah.
there is a higher tendency that a lot of us will have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is the
Yeah.
part.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can you quickly touch on the impact of this on the professional's family or spouse? I mean, how do we try not to carry our baggages home? Okay, I mean, like you're the one going through the difficult time, and then you go and put it all on your spouse or even on your children because you have a child with autism at home, and then you're watching your child. It looks like this boy is beginning to have autism as well. I mean, how do we really handle that?
Yes. What we need to do is we need to learn to set it. First of all, let me tell us all this. Like I always tell people, we need to learn to separate events, okay, event from our thought and from our reality.
Right.
Whatever happens, whatever you are seeing happening to you today, is as a result of the perspective, the view, and the interpretation and your belief about the event, not
Mm,
necessarily the event itself.
yeah.
No, at all. It is how you are reacting unconsciously to the event. That is what is influencing your behaviors and what you're going through. So what you just need to know is that that is just life. See,
Mm,
you have to learn to interpret events in a positive manner.
yeah.
Have a positive interpretation, have a positive view for life, have a
Okay.
positive views for situations, and that is
Mm,
what happens. And when you begin to do, you will learn to separate whatever happens at work, and then separate it from home, from your husband, from your from your spouses. And
right.
you need to learn to be conscious about your responses. You need to learn, you need to be self-aware. So when sometimes you will get home and you're overreacting and you never knew. So you need to learn to be self-aware, to have self-awareness. Oh, am I sure I'm not carrying over or transferring this emotion at home? That's
Mm,
very important. first of all, have a better interpretation, have self-awareness, and that's one of the things. And when you begin to practice self-care, and you begin to, sometimes you read good books, about stories, about good stories of hope, or people who have gone through those circumstances, and they've come out of it. You'll be more hopeful, and you have better interpretation for event. Oh, maybe it's just part of life, or it's just temporary. It's just an event. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to affect me and all that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ben. Since there's no question on the page, I'm going to ask you the last question, because you said that sometimes when we go through the self-help, it just may not be enough for some of us, which means that we might need to go and visit a professional, right?
Yes, right. Please. Yes.
So I suppose that this is something that you do as City Care.
Yes, please. Yes, it's a service at City Care.
Yeah. So, can you tell us about how we can visit you, how we can contact you, and all of that?
Okay. If you want to contact me, in fact, it's as simple as ABC. I'm typing my Instagram page right away. That is just Sama Benedict. It's as simple as that. You can add me on. You can check me online, send me a DM, or use put on my contact 070 37 86 5397. We will help out. And because yes, 070 37 86 5397. I was going to say that because we are into the profession altogether, if you reach out and you ask, oh, this is what I'm going through, and it's related to vicarious trauma because of a job, we can give you a free conversation on it, and that will be good.
Wonderful. Yes, wonderful.
Exactly. Because we are all into it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful pleasure for being here. Thank you to everyone that was able to stay through. Thank you for those who came and maybe network did not allow them to stay through. Just know that you can find this all on on the page, of course. I mean, at the end of this, the video will be posted on the page as well, and then you can find on the YouTube channel.
All right.
Empire. So thank you so much, Mr. Benedict Sama.
Thank you for having me here.
For me personally, I'm going to have my lavish day. I think it's going to be every
correct. It's very important,
Yeah.
Today I'm not doing anything work.
Yes.
I'm not opening my laptop. I'm not checking my email. It's intentional. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
And thank you everyone for being part of this. Until we see you again next month for another episode of 30 Minutes with Tosin. Bye.